Hello friends, Jessica Juckstock here, coming to you from lovely Michigan. This video honestly almost did not happen because after 2 days in the car with a baby who hates being in the car, I'm kind of exhausted. But I really wanted to come and talk to you all about this stuff that I've been studying. Actually been studying it for a while, and it just popped into my head this weekend as something that would be really great to share with all of you. So here we go. So we're going to talk about why the traditional way of viewing productivity is very male-centric and doesn't work super well for women, and what we can do instead to be our most productive selves. So have you, I'm talking to the women out there, ever felt like you had 1 week where you were just super productive and you're like crossing all of the tasks off of your list and you're like, yes, I'm getting tons of stuff done. I'm so amazing, so productive. And surely you've had a week like that, right? And then the next week you're like, man, I can't get anything done. I just have no motivation. You know, there are other things I want to do and I can't get my to-do list done. So there's actually a scientific reason for this. Basically, the way that we traditionally view productivity is very male-centric. Males tend to have pretty much an even keel with their hormones. There are some fluctuations, but it tends to kind of stay in this level. And so there's this idea that like your productivity, you're doing like the same kinds of tasks every single day, and they're kind of interspersed, and there's just like you're always doing these same tasks. But for us women, our cycles, our hormones affect our brain chemistry. Okay, and I'm going to tell you why this is a good thing and how we can use this to our advantage. So hey to all of you who are watching, Carmen, Christy, Jessica, nice to see you all on here. Okay, so over the course of your cycle, your hormones change by about 25%, and that affects your brain chemistry and affects the things that you are going to be most productive with over the course of the month. So I want to teach you how to work with your cycle instead of against it, so that you can be less stressed out, more productive, feel better about yourself, and just really embrace like the power of being a female. So we're gonna assume kind of a traditional 28-day, typical 28-day cycle. I know that not everyone has a typical cycle, but you can kind of adjust it based on what your cycle is like. So starting with your menstrual period, that's day 1 of your cycle. So just to clarify, a cycle is not just your period. It's the start of day 1 of your period until the start of your next period. That's a full cycle. So starting with the menstrual phase of your cycle, that's going to be about roughly 5 days long. During this point in your cycle, the way that your hormones affect your brain chemistry means that the communication between the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere of your brain is at its peak, basically. So your estrogen and your progesterone levels are at their lowest, and your right brain and your left brain are just like communicating really super well. So that means this is going to be a time of the month where you'll be really good at tasks that require you to like combine your logic and your emotion. So this is a good time for like course correcting to make sure that you know you're going the right direction. I've written some things down here because my brain goes a little bit when I'm live. I get a little bit nervous. Okay, so your fact and feeling processing is going to be really efficient. So it's a good time to analyze, to evaluate, course correct, anything that involves combining your logic with your intuition. Then as you come out of your menstrual phase, your estrogen levels will begin to rise, and you go into what's called your follicular phase. And that's when the egg follicles start to mature to prepare for ovulation. So during your follicular phase, as your estrogen levels rise, you start to be a little more social, feel a little more social. I know some of you are like social all the time. You guys are extroverted and you're amazing, and I'm not really like that. But definitely, you know, I can sense these fluctuations myself as I go through my cycle. There are definitely times where I feel more social and more outgoing. This is also when your like the executive part of your brain is engaged. So it's a really good time for like project planning, for thinking about big picture things, for planning your goals. You're also probably going to feel a little more confident. So it's a good time to try new things. You might have more energy. You may want to, you know, try like take bigger risks than you would during other parts of your cycle. Then after roughly 5 days, you come to the end of your follicular phase. And thanks, Bronwyn. I love your little hard eyes there. You go into your ovulatory phase, and that's going to be roughly 2, maybe 3 days. That's when your estrogen is at its peak. Okay, so the estrogen is what makes you like super social and verbal. That part of your brain is the most engaged when your estrogen is at its peak. So this is a really good time for anything that involves being, you know, involved with people. For example, if you are working and you need to do a presentation, you have some kind of a proposal you have to do at work, it's a really good time to schedule it. Like, okay, let me check my calendar and see when I'm going to ovulate. Okay, I'll do my presentation on that day. Really good time if you need to brainstorm with a team, or if you need to do something that requires negotiation. So really good to schedule that when you know ovulation is going to be happening. Then after you ovulate, your estrogen levels are going to go down and your progesterone is going to start to come up as your body basically kind of goes into like Carmen's pure estrogen. I love it. Yeah, that's totally not me. Okay, so then you're kind of going into like, you can think of it as like this nesting phase. Basically, your body is preparing to have a baby if you got pregnant that cycle. So as your progesterone levels come up, most people, unless you're super extroverted like Carmen, are going to start to feel a little more introverted. This is your luteal phase. So this is from ovulation until the start of your next period. So you'll probably want to be involved in tasks that are a little more solo. You may want to stay home more, do more like detail-oriented, task-oriented kinds of activities. It's a good time to check things off your list, to finish projects, and just to like really focus on getting things done that are more just like, I've got to get a task done, and it doesn't really involve people or big picture thinking. Or that sort of thing. So I do want to point out that the idea of, so this is something called cycle syncing, and I meant to mention that at the beginning, and I kind of forgot to say that. I believe the idea was kind of pioneered by a woman named Elisa Vitti, and I want to give credit where credit is due. I don't want to take like all of these ideas as my own or something. But I was watching basically a series of videos that she did this last weekend, and I think she made a really good point that it's not about only doing those activities during those particular parts of your cycle. I know I might be mean. I know I feel the same way sometimes. Thanks for that comment, Sarah. So it's not about like just doing, you know, people-focused activities when you're ovulating or whatever. It's about focusing, making those your primary concern, and then like letting the other parts of your life kind of fall in around that. So you're focusing on what your body really wants to be doing, what your brain really wants to be doing, because those hormones are affecting your brain chemistry. So you're feeling like really, you know, productive, you're feeling like your best self, you're feeling confident, not stressed out. And so then like the other little things that you have to take care of every day that maybe aren't like ideal for that part of your cycle, they're not going to be as big of a deal because you are feeling like your best self and you're really doing the things that you're super good at during that part of your cycle. So I hope that this content was valuable for you all. Please let me know if you found value, if something really stood out to you, I'd love to hear what it was. Let me know in the comments. And for those of you that don't know, I do have a Facebook group that's kind of in its infancy, but I'm really excited about the direction that it's going, where we talk about hormones and how they affect us and kind of like different female issues. And I would love to have you all in that group. If you want more information about it, please just leave a comment below and I will let you know how you can be a part of that group. Again, if you found value, feel free to share. That would be great. I would love that. And I will talk with you all later. All right. Bye-bye.